Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar hosted by SEP Software. My name is Richard Yeager, and I'm the Marketing Manager for SEP. And today we're joined by Lanai Bain and James Delmonico. Lanai is the VP of Business Development for SEP, and he is responsible for North American business development and channel partnerships. And James is our Senior Engineer, and he's been with SEP for several years, and he knows his way around our software and can answer any in-depth questions you may have. Today we're going to give a brief overview on our enterprise-wide backup solution SEP season, and then we're going to dive into a live demo after that. So feel free to ask any questions along the way using the question box in the GoToWebinar dashboard on the right-hand side of your screen. And there will be a few Q&A sessions throughout the webinar, so please don't hesitate to ask. And without further ado, let's kick it off to Lanai and get started.
Thank you, Richard. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So just want to kind of start out with a brief overview, who we are as a company, kind of what we focus on, some differentiators. There's obviously quite a bit of competition in the backup and disaster recovery marketplace. So just kind of give you everyone an idea of what we focus on and how we do things. So couple main things that we focus on as a company, and I think things that are product differentiators for us as well. We really offer one solution to back up an entire enterprise. So a common theme that we find when we start engaging with a new possible customer is, we'll start talking to them and they'll say that they have, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 different backup solutions in place to meet their needs. And it's becoming a more and more common theme. The larger environments get, the more data folks have, and especially in large heterogeneous environments. So because we support such a wide range of operating systems and applications, databases, virtual technology, et cetera, we're really able to go in and just help companies standardize down to one solution. The other benefit that has for a lot of folks is it really leaves their options open in moving forward for the future. So if they want to go out and get new technology or go in one direction versus another from a virtualized standpoint or from an application standpoint, it really gives them the flexibility to choose whatever direction that they want to go in. The second main thing we focus on is performance. So from the beginning, SEP has tried to move data from point A to point B in the fastest and safest way possible. So one of the things that we really leverage to do that is our multi-streaming technology. So we're able to back up multiple streams of data to one media point at the same time. So if we're backing up to disk, we can back up an unlimited number of streams to disk. If we're backing up to tape, we can back up to 64 streams per tape drive. So if we had 2 drives, 128 streams, and that scales out linear. And then on the disk or the cloud side, it's really unlimited. The third main thing that we focus on is reliability. So I know that it might seem like buying a backup and disaster recovery solution should obviously be reliable. And I thought the same thing when I first got into the industry, although I think a lot of the people on this call today have probably worked with other backup solutions in the past and have probably had instances where they go to do a restore and there may be a file missing, or there could be a folder that's only partially full, or they could have gotten a backup successful email, and then when they go to do a restore, there's nothing there. So it does happen fairly often. We see it not really on a day-to-day basis, but we see it a lot more than we should. And so one of the things I always kind of share is we are originally a German-based company, and we have to adhere to all of the laws in Germany, and they have much more strict data retention laws and privacy laws. So if we tell a company that we're going to back up their data, we actually become 100% financially responsible for that other company's data. So it's something that we take extremely serious. It's well thought out from the ground up when our software was originally developed, and is really something that we can stand behind and say, if someone gets positive confirmation that their data was backed up, we know we can rely on that 100% of the time without exception. And then I also put cost on here. It's not something that we necessarily focus on or sell to, but it's definitely relevant in the current backup environment and marketplace, especially in the past couple of years. So we're priced very competitively. We come in at about 40% of industry average for enterprise backup software. So it's something that, it makes a transition to us, I think, easier. It helps budgets get approved quicker. Not to mention that technically just switching over to SEP on the technology side is also much easier. Sometimes a quick ROI and an easy cost justification can help folks, move to a new solution as well. As far as product integration goes, we are able to install our main backup server on Linux, Windows, or Unix. So on the left-hand side, you can see some of the operating systems that we run on. And then we also have clients or agents for pretty much everything under the sun. From an application standpoint, we support all the main players, Exchange, GroupWise, Lotus Notes. We also have support for SharePoint and quite a few others. On the database side, again, all the main databases that you would be expected, Oracle, SQL, SAP, MySQL, Postgres, DB2, Informix, etc. And on the hypervisor side, we have full support for not only VMware, but also for Hyper-V, Citrix, and Citrix Sun Server. And then on the bare metal, we also offer bare metal disaster recovery for Windows workstations, and for Linux. So getting back to just having one single console to manage all the locations. The GUI that we have is very powerful in the sense that we can set up an entire enterprise and view everything through a single pane of glass. So we can have certain departments or locations operating fairly autonomously, but we can also tie those in and have those controlled by one main master GUI as well, or main console as well. So we can delegate out different responsibilities to different parts of an organization or different locations around the world, but also have that monitored or overseen by central IT somewhere else. We can also customize, save different GUI layouts for different folks. So, if you log in from a different workstation and want to just have everything up and running and only see the part of the network that you're responsible for, it makes that very easy. And it's really just designed as a time saver. Kind of just going through quickly and giving an overview of some of the just basically kind of a typical network environment that we would see, and some of the components that are, in that environment as well. So number one, on the left-hand side, we have a main SEP server that could back up to locally attached storage. We could also have that directly connected to a SAN. We could have a tape or disk solution that we can write to in that scenario. We're able to do disk to disk to tape. We can do disk to tape to disk. We can do tape to disk to cloud. Really any variation of moving data from one point to another is supported. So we also see that on the bottom of this diagram, just along the bottom of the storage area network, we have a file server, a database server, an application server, an email server. So we could back up all of these servers through the local area network and have everything run through the main backup server to the media. Or what we could do is have them directly connected to the SAN and have them back up what we call a LAN-free backup. and have them write directly to the SAN over fiber or iSCSI. That's obviously going to keep network traffic off of LAN. It's also going to give us some performance enhancements in a lot of cases, backing up directly to the SAN. And we can also do this with our virtual environment as well. And when we kind of get into the live demo portion, I think James will talk a little bit more about that. Some of the options that we have with writing directly from one LUN to another. We can also back up to the cloud. We can go through multiple firewalls. One of the cool things that we can do is only use a couple ports to do all of this communication, whether we're pushing data to the cloud or pulling data from the cloud. We only need 2 ports open to do so. We can also back up remote locations, and we can have data stored locally on site at those locations, or we can migrate or replicate that data across to a main data center, or stagger data between different locations. Really, any type of design that's desired, we can facilitate. So here's a quick diagram that gets a little bit more into the multi-streaming and the performance part of what we're talking about. So you'll see on the left here we have basically 9 servers. They're all different operating systems. And so one of the ways that we get such great performance is because of the way we schedule our tasks. So instead of scheduling the Windows server to back up first, the Linux server to back up second, the Mac server to back up third, we actually just schedule task groups. And so we'll create a task group, and we may have several different task groups, which enables us to get multiple streams off of each server that's here. So we could have a task group for databases. We could have one for sys volumes. We could have one for files. We could have one for DR. And so we may have anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8 different streams running off of each one of these servers. So even though we're only backing up 9 servers, we could have 50 or 75 streams running all concurrently at the same time, and that's going to enable us to maximize whatever bandwidth we have to work with. So it's very common that we reach theoretical maximums, on our backup, on all of our backups. And so if we have a 1 gig connection, we can expect about 120 to 125 gigs an hour. With a 10 gig connection, that goes up to 1.2 terabytes an hour, and dual 10 gig is going to give us about 2.4 terabytes an hour. So scales out linear. We see very impressive results once we start getting up into InfiniBand range and stuff like that. It's very high performing, and basically what this translates to in the day-to-day business is just shorter backup windows. So a lot of times we'll see somebody with a 200 or 300 hour backup window go down to a 5 or 10 hour backup window, and those numbers are not unattainable. Those are actually very realistic numbers, and here are a couple examples. So kind of starting out with the single console for many location idea. Vodafone in Europe, they're the partner company of Verizon, so they have this rolled out to about 3,500 locations, and we back up all of those from one main central data center. Moving kind of onto the multi-streaming example and how that's beneficial. U.S. National Archiving and Record Administration had us take over their enterprise email system about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And when we first talked to them, they were doing a full weekly backup of their email system, and it was taking over 6.5 days. So they basically had one window on Friday afternoon between, I don't know what, it was like 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. or something, where they weren't doing backups. And the whole rest of the week, they were just doing backups nonstop. So we went in, we set up our multi-streaming, we did a full backup, and the first full backup we did took 13 hours. We tweaked it, modified it a little bit, got it down to 11 hours. So they basically went from doing a 7-day backup to an 11-hour backup. And they were able to start doing full backups every night, increase their reliability substantially, They were having failures during some of their backups just because of the time it was taking to complete, and so they went from a lower success percentage up to 100% getting full backups every day. For San Diego, very similar story. Backups were taking over 100 hours. Oracle backups in particular were almost at 5 hours. They were, I think, like 4 hours and 50 minutes. And the overall backup window went down to under 4 hours, and the Oracle in particular went down to 42 minutes, which I think they were more happy with the Oracle backup times than they were with the overall times. But their success completion rate also went up substantially. From about 65 to 70% up to 100%. And then briefly, just getting back to the single console management concept, Public Works of Canada, they have us installed at 42 locations across the country, and again, they manage everything from one central location. So we also offer archiving capabilities. It's a worm technology, and just basically as a file lock, it prevents any unintentional deletion of data or intentional deletion. It doesn't let folks go in and modify anything or make any changes or anything like that. So basically just locks everything down and keeps data safe. We also have deduplication. And I put generic drivers on here. And basically what I mean by that is we are able to back up to any type of media that's recognized by an operating system. Excuse me. So instead of having custom drivers or custom driver configurations and only working with certain brands or certain models of storage units, disks, SAN, tape libraries, etc., we're really able to back up to anything. And we want to be as hardware agnostic as possible, and really give folks the option to use whatever type of media they want to back up to as a target. Like I mentioned, we have disaster recovery for Linux, Windows, and Windows workstations, and basically it just creates a bootable image file. We can go through, if somebody were to lose a server, it can be restored on a physical server or in a virtual environment, and just kind of has a restore wizard, that says, hey, do you want to keep partition sizes the same? Do you want to increase them? Stuff like that, and just really gets the environment back up and running in a very quick and efficient manner. We do have Direct Connect for NetUp. Couple things that are really important actually to anyone using NetUp, and I think for a long time I didn't realize how important the features and the capability you had with NetUp were, but recently we've had some customers that have run into some issues, and I think just kind of regular issues that can happen on a day-to-day basis, not really anyone's fault or anything like that. We had one customer in particular who's had some disks that failed, and they were supposed to get replacements within a certain amount of time, and unfortunately the stock was not there, and they ended up getting their disks a little bit later than planned, but fortunately for them, in the meantime, they were able to restore all of the data that they needed to a different hardware device. So typically when a backup solution backs up anything from NetApp, or when NetApp pushes data to a different type of media, you have to restore back through the NetApp device to be able to get your data. And when you're backing up with SEP's connector, that's not the case. So any data that's backed up from a NetApp device, we can restore to any other type of disk media. So that's a huge advantage, and for this customer in particular, they told us it saved them $1.3 million a day for 2 days in a row that otherwise they would have lost. So also, like I mentioned, we have another customer that is getting back some data and had used several different solutions to get the data to its target storage, and one of those solutions was NetApp, and so they're basically unable to get their data. They're having to send it all over the country to restore something that we could have restored in about a half hour's time. So again, pretty cool plug-in and different features for NetUp. And also on that, our plug-in allows us to back up to about 6 times faster than a typical NetUp backup as well. We have full support for Microsoft Exchange, everything from 2007 up through 2013. It's fully DAG aware, and we can do single mailbox restores, single email restores, and full Exchange instance restores as well. Full support for NSSQL. Everything's VSS aware. There's point-in-time restore, and we can do cross restores between different databases. It also gives you full log backup with or without truncate options. For Oracle, we have great support, and one of the really cool things that we do with Oracle is we can pretty much say that no matter what type of Oracle environment you have from a database standpoint, we can cut your backup window in half and also reduce the amount of storage that's required for an Oracle database by 50% as well. And we can pretty much say that across the board in every single case, no matter what. And the reason we're able to do that is most backup products, when they back up Oracle, they'll send a command to RMAN, and it'll say, RMAN, dump the data to a temporary holding area, and then the backup solution goes in and picks up that data and backs up the data. And what SEP does is when we communicate with RMAN, we have RMAN hand us the data directly, and we immediately write it to backup media. So we don't have that intermediary step of writing that data to a landing facility and then backing it up from there. So instantly, the data only has to be written one time instead of twice. So that cuts out at least 50% of the backup window. Then with our multi-streaming technology, we can have multiple streams running at the same time, which further reduces the backup window. And we can reduce the cost of having that additional storage landing area as well. So, for folks with small databases, it's really not that big of a deal, and some of them could probably care less about that storage requirement. But when you start getting up into larger customers, enterprise environments, folks that have very large Oracle databases, this actually becomes, a huge, it becomes a really big deal for them. And we can provide a pretty big cost savings from a hardware standpoint as well. So you can see here at the bottom, we have one customer that has a 2 petabyte Oracle database. So when they implemented our solution, they instantly went from having to have 4 petabytes of disk space available for that backup to only needing 2 petabytes. So we instantly saved them over $1 million just on that one feature alone. Full support for SAP. We were recently certified for SAP HANA as well. So we're adding that to our list of SAP supported applications. Full support for DB, Oracle, also MSSQL, and all the rest. We do fully support all of Novell's products as well. We're one of the only enterprise backup solutions on the market to do so. So we have full support for eDirectory, NSS volumes, group-wise. We back up everything through the TSAs. So everything we do is natively communicating with Novell. So we're able to support all of the legacy NetWare, I think back to about version 3.5, all the way up through OES 11. Full support for trustee rights. We can restore individual trustee rights. It gets very granular. Everything's pretty easy to see. And we may see a little bit of that in James's demo coming up. Also offer full support for Mac OS. So whether it be servers, desktops, laptops, all of the Mac OS are currently supported. Going back to the virtual technology, we have a couple new things that we can do with VMware. So we've always fully supported VMware, Citrix, Hyper-V, and open source Zen. A couple new features for VMware that we'll get into in another slide or two, but we support everything from VMware, all the current releases, 5.5, back through, probably the past 3 or 4 or 5 different versions. So typical way that we back up VMs, we would create an LVM snapshot, we would mount it, back it up, unmount it, and delete it. Pretty straightforward. One of the cool things that we can do when we back up virtual machines, so this could be a Zen server, it could be a VMware server, it could be a Hyper-V server, it really doesn't make a difference. When we back up the virtual machines, we can also have the option to schedule restores. And this actually runs for any backup task that we do. We can have automatic restores for anything. So there's some folks that restore databases in a different location every 15 or 30 minutes. But we can do the same thing with VMs so that we have warm standbys, or we can just do it once in a while so that there's a cold standby, but we can restore to the same pool or to a different pool. We can spin up the machines or leave them offline. Really just depends on user preferences. So some of the new features that are in our brand new 4.4 release, we have full support for GroupWise 2014. We also offer VMware single file restores for NSS volumes without putting an agent or a client on those VMs, so that's pretty cool as well. One of the coolest things that we're now able to do is with VMware. So we have a new feature that's called VMware Instant Restore, and we're able to basically separate out a copy of the VMDK when we back up a VMware VM. And if we back up that VMDK to a shared volume, then if that VMware were to go down or get corrupted or something were to happen to it, instead of doing a traditional restore where we would just restore that VM back into a pool or to a different pool and wait for that restore to complete, we can basically just point VMware to that VMDK file and instantly start up a copy of the VM directly off of that shared volume. So it really eliminates any downtime that a company would have and gives you an instant recovery. After you spin that VM up, you can move it to a different location, you can label where it is, you can copy it somewhere else. So it really gives you a lot of features and functionality. Some new updates to the deduplication. We currently have destination side deduplication, and in the next minor release of 4.4, we will have source side deduplication as well, and also replication. And 4.4 that's released right now has full support for SAP HANA, like I mentioned, and also single port network requirements for 4.4 as well. So very cool new features. Just a quick overview of some of our technology partners that we work with on a day-to-day basis. And at this time, we are getting ready for some Q&A, and we'll go ahead and answer some questions while we switch over to the live demo portion of this. So I would like to invite anyone who has questions to go ahead and ask away. As Richard said, it's in the question box on the GoToMeeting console on the right. And I am going to go ahead and answer some of these. Give me 1 second to expand this. Okay. So there's a question here about backing up to tape and disk and cloud. Just as you had mentioned that you can back up to tape and to disk, I think, can you also back up to cloud environments? And the answer is yes. So it doesn't really matter the order of how things are backed up. We can back up to, again, to any type of disk storage, any type of tape storage, any type of cloud storage, and we can do that in any order. So hopefully that answers that question. And it looks like that was the only question for now. So let's go ahead and switch over to James and let him get started. Another question just came in that says, can I get a video copy of this presentation? And the answer is yes. We will upload this to YouTube, I believe, and to our website, so there should be full access to this webinar after the fact, and we will send the details out in an email to all of the attendees. So as we go through this live demo portion, please feel free to ask questions as we go, and we're more than happy to answer any specific questions, or any questions that may pertain to a specific environment or anything like that. So ask away. And I will go ahead and turn it over to James and let him get started.
This is a fresh installation I did today of the Sesame Server product on Windows. This happens to be Windows 12 R2. We support everything from original Windows 2008 all the way up to 2012 R2 for the server version. We also support all the different Linux versions that are current, and Solaris. So you can just pick what server you like to administer and use that as your backup server. There's no difference in the features or the capabilities or anything like that. In fact, we use the same Java jar file for all the different operating systems. So the only difference is that the top menu looks different per operating system, and that the slashes go the other way on Windows. So in addition to that, when we deal with data storage, we're also, driver and OS agnostic. So you can have, Windows Server for storage, Linux Server for storage, any type of combination or tape drive that you want. We automatically create a little test storage area on the C drive on Windows or in the var partition on Linux, and we connect any tape drives, loaders, or anything like that that's available. The main purpose of the data store is to keep the drive from getting full. We also have the ability to do software deduplication on the destination side with our data store. So mainly this is just a volume. When we talk about actually storing data and targeting the storage with Sesame, we're talking about a media pool. And by default, we're talking about a 7-day retainment period, and that's the only property of a media pool. So commonly we have weekly, monthly, annual, and archival media pools. Those can be split across a number of machines, a number of operating systems, in any combination you want. Also, in addition to doing backup and recovery from media pool, we can also migrate from one media pool to another. So you can do any type of tiered storage architecture, or disk to tape to cloud, or disk to cloud to tape, or any combination that you like for your environment. Most commonly, that's a disk to tape or disk to cloud type situation. All of our different licenses for the software, we have 3 different licenses, and that's the server license. Normally there's only one server in the environment, and that has a backend GUI and catalog where it stores the log files and data from the backup. Also, there's a standard agent. Those agents have the ability to do Active Directory and eDirectory backups for free. We also include open file support for all operating systems for free. And we have a remote device server, which we use as a local agent for the machine that it's installed on. And also it's a network listener, so it's able to share its storage. Again, it doesn't matter what operating system you're using for each device. They're all just presented flat in the system, so we can target them. We provide a built-in DR for our service itself. Sesame Backup has everything, including our log file and our license, along with the database catalog. Additionally, when we do email notifications, we send out 3 types of notifications. We send out commonly a notify notification, which says, everything succeeded last night, there's nothing to attend to. If the machine rebooted or was down during the backup, then we send an alarm message immediately when that happens. This machine was not connected, or this machine rebooted during the backup. And so that also sends a summary in the morning if you want to restart jobs or something like that. The disaster email notification sends us a trimmed-down SQL copy of the modifications we've done to the GUI. And that's great because it allows us to instantly restore the GUI on a new machine just from the email. So we have the ability to import that here. And that means that the DR for the SESM server itself is included. All you do is grab a trial version off the website, import the database, and you're ready to go. So that handles anything like loss of the backup server, and you can still get at your storage quickly. When we do backups, we use this all target, and this means all local storage, all fixed disks. Here in this case, it can see our hidden boot UEFI partition, as well as our system volume and data volume here. We use the same all technique to target everything. So if we happen to have a SQL Server and SQL Express and a few instances in each and a few databases in each, we can use this all target to back up everything. The nice thing about the all target, in addition to having a quick way to back up everything, is that if somebody, another administrator, adds a drive letter or adds a database and doesn't notify you, then we're going to pick that up by default. So you really have the protection of knowing that all the data is going to stay backed up no matter what happens to the machine. When we do our all backups, we're always talking about a complete BSS snapshot from Windows. And that means that the data in this backup is identical to what you'd get from a virtual machine snapshot, just not encapsulated in the VM or the virtual disk. So that gives you a lot of latitude to know that your files are available to you. Also, when we back up an incremental or a differential type backup, we back up a new copy of the file. We call it an intact save set, and the idea there is that if you happen to do a full backup on Friday night and migrate that to tape, send the tape to a tape storage company, and you get a call to restore an incremental, you don't have to wait to get that tape back because the incremental has real data in it. So you're able to aggregate incrementals on disk locally, or just restore from every tape. And I think that's a big difference from a lot of the different technologies out there. Every backup you make with SESM is something that you can restore. In addition to that, whenever we make a backup, we're able to make a restore for it and schedule that. So commonly you can do things like backup a virtual environment from SAN to SAN in the early evening, and then restore it to another hypervisor host with a separate storage. So you have kind of a warm standby there. Another real common use of the scheduled restoration feature is to restore email early Monday morning. So when you get calls of, I deleted some email over the weekend, you can just drag them back without waiting for the restore. Scheduled restoration is great for verification and also for creating the warm standbys and preparing things. That's not a licensed feature, but I thought it was important to include here. The big thing about SESM is multi-stream and performance. And how we handle that, when we go to do a disk backup, we start two processes. The first process is responsible for reading all the file names and all the file access dates of all the files, checking to make sure that they should be backed up and seeing if they're excluded. And then it passes that list off to another process which is responsible for transporting that data to the storage. The efficiency there is that during the beginning, as soon as the first file is read, we can start backing it up. So you get instant starts of backups even once the first file is read. As the first reading process goes ahead, it buffers all of those files and between the processes. And so you get really fast backups, and you're also able to know that the point in time from when the backup started, we read the files as quickly as the operating system can handle, and then we instantly start backing those up. And so you get a very good consistency rate because we're reading the files first along with doing the backup instead of reading them one at a time as we back them up like a lot of other vendors do. To help us leverage the multi-stream, we make 6 scheduling groups by default. And with SESM, we believe in set it and forget it type of idea. And so during the first install, and we're talking about 1 or 2 hours, a couple hundred megabytes, not terabytes or days or anything like that. We create 6 scheduling groups, and scheduling groups let us control the order of operations when we're starting our backups. By default, we start them all in one pool, all at the same time. The 6 groups are disaster recovery. Normally that's for things like Active Directory, image level backups, registries, other directory services or LDAP. We have system volumes and data volumes, databases for SQL, and with SQL, everything in the Microsoft kit is all supported with SESM, as well as Linux, and also specialty things, Unixes and Oracle, Mac. So we have a group for mail and groupware systems, as well as virtual machines. And so commonly, we can cover everything in the environment with these 6 groups. I'm just going to make a VM group, scheduling group to make an example. But let's say we want to do daily incremental to our test pool and weekly fulls. So at this point, I've created the VM group, and all that I need to do in the future is go and add jobs to that group. We handle the schedule all during the first time installation, and so there's no other work that you have to do with the schedule, which is a big advantage from an admin point of view. On the other side, the clients are reassignable in our system. We don't care what OS they are or anything else. And so you have the ability to add and remove things. You're not calling support and getting new licenses all the time. So now we've made our example scheduling group. I'm going to show you what it looks like to add an agentless client. This is the same thing for VMware and Citrix. This happens to be a little Citrix desktop box that's hosting this VM. But really, it's the same thing for Hyper-V, Citrix, and VMware. They're all fully supported. We just put that hosting address of a pool member, and we select the operating system from systems. Here would be ESX, and this is Citrix. All we're really doing is putting in an API login. This could be an AD identity, or in this case, a local user. This data mover field is really interesting because this controls the initiator of the connection. If I was saving this data to an external media pool, I'd have the option to use that external media server as the initiator. And so the data would go directly from the hypervisor API to that media storage. If I selected the backup server like this, then the data would go from the hypervisor through the backup server to the remote storage. So you can use this to control routing. So now we've added our agentless client. We use our source browser, and this is standard for all the different features. This just picks up anything available. So any type of running service, whether it's a hypervisor or a database service, everything is supported. So any of the MySQL derivatives or Postgres or anything related to Microsoft SQL or Oracle or SAP or Max, those all show up here, and you're able to just select the job. So we've set up our agentless client, we've set up our task, and all that's left to do to make this back up is add it to a scheduling group. So at that point, we can walk away and know that that VM will be backed up regularly. We also have the ability to disconnect any type of data from an API. So if we back up data from Citrix API, we can restore it as an XVA file. If we back up data from a Microsoft SQL service, we can dump it as an SQL file to any agent in the system or the server. And so you have a lot of latitude to control where things go, because you can back up data and restore it to the same API, or restore it to a different API, or a fresh installed API. So if you were to make this VM backup and then do a fresh install of Citrix, you could restore the VM, and you could leave it in a template state, a standard VM state, or even start it. So if machine were to break down during an update with any type of hypervisor system, you could set it to just blow away the machine, restore the image, and start it, and walk away and let the system handle it. So you don't have to go and connect with the API in an additional way to get things back up and running. We can control the order of the operations within the groups. We can also control the order of the groups starting. Commonly, we don't need to do that, but it lets us do things like, say we want to back up 10,000 agents at once on physical machines, but we only want to do 5 hypervisor backups at the same time. It also lets us control the network performance and leave extra room on the network for other uses at night. Again, the schedule is really a one-time thing, but the only automation built into SESM is this new day task. And this controls all of our log file compression, cleaning up temp files. This is the only scheduled task built into the system. And so this, by default, stops anything that's running at 8 in the morning. So if backups are going slow and running in user time, this will keep you from receiving complaints. It also keeps things scheduled in the window. So this is an open system made to be usable with small parts that do their job correctly. The GUI, for example, if I go into the backup logs, the GUI is a standard SQL client, and we use just a very small built-in database, so that's management-free. You don't have to worry about installing SQL or anything like that. We keep this little bit of metadata in the database, and that's it. Mainly here, we can see it's a copy-level backup. It could be full, incremental, or differential. The exact time where the job started, and a unique key. Every log file and the backup save set file or tape save set is all labeled with the same label, so you can search for everything related to this on file system if you want. Our big log here from the agent or the file list, this is kept on disk. That lets us do things like select your restore of certain files just by looking at the list. It also means that we use our standard agent to do all the heavy lifting. So standard agent here, we can see the command line that we use to run it, handles reading and writing from disk, sending network connections, and it also is able to open up a file handle for a specialty module. So when we do something like a Citrix backup or VMware backup, that data is going through the standard agent. So you get the exact same behavior from all the different backup types and all the different parts of the software. Even further, we use the exact same code base and the same build for all the operating systems. So I could do something like export our database from a Windows machine and import it into a Linux machine. All I'd be doing would be changing the tape device name or the folder path to set that up. So the system really is designed in a way that's open and usable. I like to use this as a report builder. So if I wanted to do, add my drive numbers, I could just cut and paste the SQL query here into the email notification. They're just open scripts, and that lets us do any type of custom reporting. It also lets us see every single thing that the GUI is doing. From an admin or support point of view, that means that we don't have to call support or upstream support for every little thing because we can see exactly what's happening. Additionally, the system daylog has everything that happens with the back end. So starting the service, making a connection to the GUI, starting a backup, ejecting the tape, checking the storage that's available. Between these two views, absolutely everything the software does is shown, even the command lines that are run. And all of our command line is self-documenting. So even if we're curious what these options are, we can just run the command and see. So the idea there is that you're able to control everything yourself. There's no hidden registry or anything like that that you have to worry about. There are various other views that show you things that are happening, like the future events that are going to happen today in the schedule, or anything that, migration or anything like that. And so you can see everything here and have a real consistent backup without having to actually sit there and babysit it all the time. At this point, that's really the basis of the technology. The big things are the multi-streaming performance, the consistency from having everything in the same build and the same code base for all customers, and really reliability of knowing that when the system says something's backed up, it really is, and you can really restore it. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post those into the questions feed, and we'll hang out for a moment and look for this.
Thanks, James. That was good. Looks like we actually don't have any questions yet, so you must have done a really good job covering everything. We'll give folks a couple seconds here to submit any questions that they might have. So while we're waiting for that, I just also wanted to let everyone know that if you guys would like to set up, a individual test case or, run a proof of concept or anything like that, we're also available to help with that. So, we can remote into your system, we can install the product. Our entire solution is under 150 megabytes, so we can download it and install it very quickly. We can have it up and running in, pretty much under an hour with jobs kicked off and up and going. So very easy to get all of that set up. So if you do have any interest, please reach out to us directly. If you have any questions that you'd like to follow up with us offline, please feel free to do so as well. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll put all of our contact information up here so that folks can reach us. There we go. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or would like any additional information, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll give a couple seconds more for any last-minute questions. But wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Please stay tuned to our webinar series. We should have several others coming out shortly, and also we do have online training available as well. So contact us if you're interested in any online training. Typically, that training course is a 3-day course, 3 hours per day. Again, everything's done online. And then we also have in-person SEP Certified Administrator trainings coming up. We have one next week, and the next one is to be determined, time and date, location. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time and look forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.